Welcome back, everybody, to JAG Woodworking. I'm going to try and be a little bit more energetic today. I went back and rewatched my first video that I made, and I just kind of seemed unenthused, kind of monotone. So let's try to be a little more energetic. Got today's sponsor, coffee. Not sponsored, actually, but who wouldn't love a sponsor from coffee? Let's be honest. So, couple housekeeping things here real quick. If you see me walking around with this little clicker here, I got a better phone mount, so that way I should be able to get a little more better angles, a little more versatility. As I talked about in the last video, the number one thing you want to do is focus on finding deals to start out with here. We can get the nice, high quality, expensive things later on, but for now, it's all about saving every penny we can. So along that line, made our trip down to the local Wally World, found this supposedly what was it again? Supposedly 8,000 lumens light. Got it plugged in up there. It is much brighter than just the regular bulb that I had plugged in before. Not sure if it's 8,000 lumens, but definitely an upgrade, and it was on sale for only $4. So in my mind, heck of a deal no matter what the lumens are, especially because it's a more natural like blue light, whereas the other one was a more yellow light like this one here. Continuing on talking about deals, I recently signed up. Figured if I'm going to be doing this, I should sign up for both Lowe's and Home Depot membership plans just to try and stretch my penny as far as it will go in every direction. As a part of that, I saw this past weekend's membership deals at Lowe's where they were running a special on some lawn care equipment. I've been looking at getting the 24 volt line of their lawn care equipment. Haven't seen a lot of reviews online. I was going to test those, give my honest opinion of them, and start by going down that route. But when I was looking, the 24 volt leaf blower and weed whacker were around $200 for the kit, and that include batteries and charger for it. But with these member deals, I found the 40 volt upgrade here kit for $169, came with the battery and charger as well, so saved $40 and got to go to the 40 volt instead of the 24 volt, which I think will be a huge upgrade as far as lawn care goes. Let's get into the video. First thing we want to do here is I want to get an extension off of the Workbench here. This is pretty nice as far as I didn't have to do anything, didn't have to spend any money, didn't have to take the time to put it together. This is pretty nice. It's just there's a lot of limitations with the wall there and this shelf being here, being right-handed. I want to hold the saw with the right hand. I want to do things off of here. So it's going to make it a little bit difficult if the furthest I can put material back is right there. I'm touching the wall. So there's not a whole lot of space behind this. So I'm going to build an extension off of here, have some MDF boards here that's left over from a project we did a few months ago inside of the house, sectioning off a little area. So I'm not going to count this towards the material cost of anything because it's something we already had laying around. You can use whatever you find, or if I didn't have that material, this would be perfect. I would be ecstatic to have a workstation like this to start with. But since I have the materials, I have the opportunity, I'm going to go a little bit more expansive on that. So let's dive into the blueprinting process. Don't mock my mock-up here. I'm not very good at drawing things to scale or even a straight line for that matter, I guess. But this right here is pretty much a rendition of the workbench we have over there. So we have 12 1/4 working space with nothing above it. The total depth goes back an additional 12 1/4. So we have 24.5 inches front to back of the workbench. Then there's an offshoot of the wall, about 3 inches, then continues on up to the front of the garage here. So what I want to do, and I got drawn out here, is I'm going to have a piece that kind of curves around here just for a little extra space, comes down, gives me a little bit more working space over here. And so this, from this point to this point, we're going to be 36.5. It's going to go an additional 9 inches out this way. So this measurement here will be a total of 12. Now, the reason why I have this little piece here, originally, I was going to make it to where this offshoot could kind of fold down. So that way, if I just needed space to like get stuff in here, move things around, I'm not having a big old L of a desk sticking out that I have to work around. But this was when I was under the assumption that that MDF we had was 3/4. So it's going to be a little bit sturdier. It's actually a 1/2 inch. I completely spaced on that. That was my mistake. I don't know why I thought I got 3/4, but after realizing that, I don't think it's going to be structurally strong enough for the screws to hold on to the hinges without just ripping out of that MDF. So if I fold it down, there's going to be no supports on the extended part here. So all the weight of that is on those screws. I just think it's not going to be strong enough. Coming off of here is we're pretty much just going to have another platform that is going to be an additional 20 inches long. Total length of workable space here is going to be 32. Going to be 39 there to there, and then I'll have a straight edge here to where if I want to work with some really long boards, I can put it up against the wall I have over on this side and come all the way across. So this right here is what I'm going to go for. Pretty basic, but I feel like this, especially 39 by 20 area, that's going to be nothing but open space for me to do whatever I want with. It's going to be extremely valuable. So let's throw some dust, let's drive some screws, let's get started. First step we got to do here is I got to cut some legs to help support this whole thing. So this is just some generic 2x3 super cheap construction grade lumber. I think these were around $3-4 for 8-foot pieces. It's just some scrap from another project that I have laying around. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the height of this. I'm going to subtract the thickness of the material of our desk, cut these to length, and I'll have some additional pieces that I can put around it for extra support. I got about 4 of these sitting over there, so I should be able to get good corner bracing on each side, and then whatever scrap I have left over, I'm going to use as joining pieces to go underneath of where the 2 pieces of this table are going to connect, just for a little extra support. So let's get cut. Now, as I stated in the first video, PPE is a necessity, always. So using a circular saw, these are going to be some very quick cuts. I'm not going to go with the respirator, but I won't be caught dead without my safety glasses here. So we're going to gear up, get started. I'm going to use the square to make sure the saw runs straight, so that way I can just get as straight a cut as possible. That's a little trick for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece that I know is going to be good, and I want to judge all the other legs off of this one, so that way hopefully I can get this sitting as level as possible. So I'm going to line this up on the end here, take my pencil, and there's my line. Yeah, line on again. There's a line. Line one. Line on again. There's a line. So now, even if the tape measure might be a little bit inaccurate as far as like a beginner goes, you're not going to necessarily get the straightest cuts possible. This should allow it to where I can base everything off of this one. So I know this board's pretty flat. I know this cut's pretty good. So by doing this, it allows me to just take as much error out of the equation as possible. So let's get the rest of these cut, and then we'll move on to the next step. We got our cuts, we got our scrap pieces. This one, probably not going to be good for much of anything. We got this mocked up here, just kind of everything. It's not screwed down at all, so we're still able to move it, fine tune it. So I'm trying to figure out where exactly I want to put my legs. So I know I want one as close to this corner as possible, because this is where a lot of the working is going to be done. So I want as much support on this corner as I can. I think the other one's going to go right on that corner, so that way there's a lot of support there. I may even offshoot it a bit, so that way this board is kind of half resting on here, and then the next one will rest on the other half, just there's a little additional support for the big piece. I think that'll probably be a good idea. Depending on, I may even fiddle around with this, mock it up, may try moving this piece out to here, kind of see how secure that is. We may do that. I might even have enough scrap material that I can put an additional support over here, so that way I have the strength where I want it, and I have as much stability on that extension as I can. Okay, I got this all pretty much tacked together. I got all of the brackets that were on here. Those are fully screwed in, a little bit of a weird angle, so that's why I didn't record that. But for the time being, I have the legs here, a little bit of wood glue, and then just one brad nail, kind of hold them in place temporarily while I fully finish thinking how I want this to go. So now what I'm going to do is, I like where these are at. I decided to go with the bit of overhang so that way both pieces have a little extra support. And I think I know how I'm going to support this corner because it's just a little weak, but I have a pretty good idea for that, so we'll get to that in just a moment. But now we need to fully secure these legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these exterior screws. They're just number 8 2-inch coarse thread, just some very generic exterior screws. I'm going to drill a couple pilot holes, and I'm going to put 2 down into each leg. If you only put 1, that gives it more chance to pivot and rotate. So whenever you're doing something like this that's kind of structural, you always want to put 2 screws. So I went through my bits. I kind of just lined up, looking at them, see roughly what size pilot hole I wanted to drill. For these, I'm going with a 7/64. So I'm going to put that in the driver here, drill a couple pilot holes, put 2 screws into each corner, and then we're going to move on to this piece. So without further ado, again, just kind of rough estimate about where 2 of them will fit good. I don't want to get too close to any corners or edges because I don't want to avoid the wood splitting. So about here. Now these screws are not, they're not necessarily special heads to sit flush. I didn't countersink them, but with a softer material like this and this application, the only concern I have with these is if anything runs across this, I don't want anything to get caught or snagged on it. So just hammered them down a little bit extra, and so you saw me rubbing my thumb against it, making sure they feel flush. And they do. So now we're ready to move on to the next piece. So I just double checked my board that I got over there. We got 28 3/8 by 49 inches. So there's a little bit of wiggle room that I can do as far as adjusting it a little bit further. I just did a quick mock-up with the tape measure. I'll take you back over there in a second. But I think this 20 inches, we're going to stick pretty close to that. I may go 22, maybe 24, but we're going to get a quick mock-up over there, kind of see how that looks, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to take our legs. I'm going to do, again, another quick mock-up. So just kind of set it here. Let's double check our distance. It's fairly close. That was just about at 19. So we're going to move this out to where the outside edge of this is about 90. Up there. Get it like this right here is roughly what we're looking at as far as our work area. So like I said, I think most of my work is going to happen right here in this corner because I got all my tools up here. I got my direct spotlight. I have extra space this way. I'll have extra space that way. So majority of what I do is going to be right here. So as far as 20 inches, that's looking pretty good there. So not a whole lot of difference, but that is kind of looking pretty good. Majority of what I'm going to be working with here in the beginning is these cedar pickets. For this, if I set that to where that's about at the edge, and then everything right here within my base working area, I think this is within good reaching distance. I don't want to have to constantly be doing this while moving around, so I kind of have everything here. I'll have room to slide this over. That's against the wall, so I don't need the end this close to me at all. So plenty of room that way. And then if I want to slide it down this way, that amount of overhang is not going to cause the material to fall off the edge. So I think that's good. So I think I am going to go with the 24 inches. Quick jump back into here real quick. I haven't done anything other than adjust the number, and I moved my legs and scrap pieces from there over to here. So for the time being, I don't have a lot of space. If I were to put these over here, like now I'm moving this tool, move these over, now I'm moving more things. and I just don't have a lot of good workspace over here. So I want to be able to use this as actual workspace. No, I'm just re-explaining everything I've said already, but my mind works in a very practical sense. I can have somebody explain something to me 10 times over, and I still may not get it. But as soon as I see something like this, even just this piece, which is 12 inches here, 9 inches on that end, an additional foot of workspace is making a huge difference as far as getting that piece ready to cut. Okay, glimpse into the future here. So, made a few mistakes, working on fixing them. I was just about ready, but the cuts are not lining up perfectly. So, a little trick I saw a while ago is you take some of your dust, the finer the dust the better, put a little wood glue in there, and then you just kind of mix it together. So you got a nice paste going. Now, full disclosure, this is the first time I've done this. I've just seen it done before. So you make up your paste, and then you take it, and anywhere where the lines are not perfectly even, you just kind of caulk it together. And then we'll let this dry, come back, hit it with a quick sand, and then any gap should be pretty well not going to be unnoticeable, but you're not going to have pieces to where it's sticking or parts are falling down in there. As you can tell, I'm a little out of it at the moment. I'm just frustrated, had one little mishap after the other, but that just kind of happens with these things. You just got to work through it, keep on going, make the best of a situation, and then it'll all turn out good in the end. That's all you can do. If you want to wear gloves while doing this, you're more than welcome to. The wood glue is not going to hurt you. My piece of cardboard here is just getting a little too flimsy. So just going to take a razor, cut that piece off. We'll put that in the trash in a bit. Got a nice fresh corner here. Let's make sure you still see everything yet. Okay. I'm just going to keep working it. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to let this dry, come back, hit it with a sand, and I will see you then. I want to be very honest and very straightforward, and I want to share my successes as much as my failures. And this, unfortunately, was one of the failures. So I kind of got ahead of myself, and I brought y'all over here and I explained the idea that my brain had, and it left out one little detail of why that was a bad idea. This piece here that I was currently cutting and getting everything to size. And I had the idea of, oh, that big piece, when I cut it, that's pretty much cutting it in half. So I'm just going to even the two pieces up, make some cutouts to go around the legs. That way I didn't have to recut them. And then I was going to have an inch thick tabletop on that extended piece for extra stability. What my brain didn't calculate for was how much actual dimensional lumber I had. The piece that I had before it was cut, if I remember correctly, was about 28 3/8 by 49. Obviously, the 28 3/8 side will not stretch this 39 inches. So 49, I was gonna have to cut short out of that. But my brain jumped the gun and went, 24, let's work on this side first. I cut 24, which was pretty much cutting this piece in half. And now I don't have enough length to stretch this. Fortunately, like I said, this doesn't have to be the sturdiest. And I still have this piece of leftover from the same board that I wasn't accounted for. I haven't brought this up in any of this designing and the working whatsoever. This piece was sitting over against the wall. So I think I'm going to be able to now take my two pieces that I cut, and I need to hit 39. So that's 15 inches. So I think if I just take one, cut it at 15, I can take this, and I can kind of use it as a splice between the two. Hopefully I can even extend this piece. I haven't measured it yet. Let's do that actually. It's a little under 29.5. So if I take the 29.5 and I put it this way to splice the two pieces and put it together, it'll give me 5 extra inches that I can hang over under this portion, get some additional bracing along there, and then use some of the 2x3 cutoffs, like I said, as splicing and additional support. And then since I won't have one here in the middle, hopefully I can put a couple more along where that new line is. But this just is not going to look as good. I'm very frustrated with myself here. So I'm going to get back to this. I'm going to get everything all spliced up, fiddle around with it a bit, figure out what feels the strongest, and then I'll come back to y'all with my final results and give you a walkthrough of what I finally decided to do. Now we're on to everybody's favorite portion of every job, and that is sanding. Obviously the thing that takes the longest out of everything. I'm not going to do a whole lot to this. I'm just going to hit it with some 120. Just going to be a quick cleanup on it all, get it looking as nice as possible, pretty much just polishing a turd at this point. Overall, I'm really not happy with how this turned out, but at the end of the day, this is the very first project I'm doing in here, so there's only room for improvement from here, hopefully. So if you made it this long, go ahead and drop a comment and a like. Tell me what you would have done differently, other than the mistakes, please. And with that, roll the clip. I was a little bit of a dum-dum here. Even with that going, always use your PPE. Back to the clip. So that's pretty much it for this video. I have a few more ideas of what I want to do to this to just make it a better workbench suited specifically for me. As a tabletop, this is pretty much going to do just about everything I needed to, but I want to make it a little more versatile so that way I'm taking advantage of as much space inside of here as I possibly can. So I'm going to call this good. I'm going to do a bit of cleanup before I close up, and then you'll have to tune in for the next episode to see what ideas I got for this. Thanks for coming.